COVID cases making a comeback. Biden takes his first military action. And love, hate, hate to end the week. Friday Need to Know. Let's go. Good morning. This is Cheddar's Need to Know podcast for February 26th. I'm Jill Wagner with Carlo Versano. Carlo, good morning.
Oh, you nailed that. You got it. Friday Need to Know. Let's go. Love
well,
it.
we rehearsed at least
for once.
You did one take to show me kind of the flow. I like it.
I think it sounds good.
Carlo, it's these little things that we need to get us through the pandemic. Okay, speaking of the pandemic, there has been a number of promising developments on the pandemic lately, but let's not get ahead of ourselves because this thing is not over by a long shot. Hospitalizations and deaths still coming down, although there's a worrying signal in the data. Cases have stopped declining after going down steadily for weeks. The vaccination rate also had a bad week, mostly because of reverberations from all of those storms. The fact, though, that the number of new cases have stopped going down, not just in the U.S., but globally, suggests that the virus is shape-shifting in the form of these new, more contagious strains.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that this was what we had been expecting, and we're starting to see it materialize in the data. The good news is it's early enough where if we don't keep our guard down, we can squash this. I don't mean to say squash, but we can keep it from having this new surge. I think about the famous Marshmallow Test, right? That Stanford study that they teach everybody in business school, in which a child was offered a choice between basically like a small and immediate reward in a form of a marshmallow, or 2 marshmallows if they just waited for a period of time, right? It's like this deferred gratification test. So we're all doing the marshmallow test right now. And it's like, it's incumbent on us to not eat the marshmallow, right? We have to wait because 2 marshmallows are coming if we just stay vigilant. So don't go out there and rip your mask off and start, making out with people on the train or whatever. I don't know why I always use that as my like example of like post-COVID activity.
Who's doing that?
I don't know. Is anyone actually doing that? I don't know. But you know what I'm trying to say? Like, it's not. We cannot let it. We are so close, Jill. We are so close. We just got it. We got to get there.
When you say kissing on the train, I think of after World War II, that famous image of that I think it was a soldier who came home like kissing somebody in Times Square. And that's sort of what I'm thinking. So we're not there yet. We're not kissing strangers on the street. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine, maybe the summer. The vaccine from Johnson & Johnson expected to be approved either later today or tomorrow. There's also more data to suggest that giving people who have already had COVID just 1 shot of the Pfizer vaccine is perfectly fine, according to 2 studies published in The Lancet today. Carlo, my prediction, though, is that regardless of that data, there is no way that that's going to be our policy because health officials think we are childish and can't deal with that. They think it will be confusing for us, and they're just going to say, you know what? Give these people 2 shots, even though their 1 shot could probably go to somebody else who really needs it.
I think you're probably right about that, which is sort of a sad state of affairs. But it just goes back to the messaging, right? Everybody is confused. And once you start to add something like, well, if you actually had COVID, you don't have to go in for the 2nd shot, but only if you had a severe case. But so I think you're probably right, which is a shame, I think, because all the data suggests that especially these mRNA vaccines are so good that if you already have some antibodies, that you just need this 1 shot.
And also that the second one does not help, right? That's the whole key, right? Even if they said the second one helps a little bit, just not as much as others. In this case, no, the second one is not adding any additional antibodies, according to research. CDC, by the way, is also going to be recommending changing some of their recommendations, I think, for people who've had the vaccine, which is something that we've talked about, because I think the messaging on the vaccines has been awful in terms of just don't do anything different. You get those 2 vaccines. Do not change one thing in your life. Be just as cautious. And I'm not saying go out and kiss people in Times Square, but there has to be a way to let your hair down a little bit if you've had a full vaccination and it's been 28 days, or else what is the point?
Right.
I think that hopefully they'll relax some of those recommendations a bit. We're waiting for that.
I wouldn't hold just on that. I'm a little bit worried about that because the CDC is famous for having these recommendations on things that are like no one actually could possibly follow. Like for instance, the CDC recommends that you not eat runny eggs. Did you know that? That's our CDC recommends that you not eat any scrambled eggs that have a runny yolk, or any sort of eggs that have a runny yolk. Nobody follows that, right? You eat eggs how you're going to eat eggs. So they're very cautious. I mean, famously, I don't know, I don't know if you remember health class in high school, but the CDC recommendation is that you use dental dams in oral sex. Does anybody do that? It's a little too early
I
to be
don't even
talking
know
about that,
what
maybe.
is a dental dam.
I have no idea. I don't know, where do they sell them somewhere? So I'm not saying that you shouldn't abide by CDC guidelines, but just be aware that their whole MO is to have guidelines that are way more cautious than actual people live.
Right. Cookie dough is not supposed to be allowed, but I certainly ate cookie dough growing up.
I'm breaking the CDC rules every weekend.
Okay, switching gears, overseas, the U.S. carried out airstrikes in Syria last night against an Iran-backed militia that the Pentagon says was responsible for a rocket attack in Iraq earlier this month that killed a coalition contractor and wounded several Americans. It was the first military action taken by the Biden administration. According to the Pentagon, the strike was limited in scope. It was meant to de-escalate the overall situation in both eastern Syria and Iraq.
Yeah, bombs, famous for their de-escalation abilities. It's like every new president, Jill, gets to do like a little Syria airstrike as a treat in their first couple of months. Remember President Trump did this, and it was like one of the first foreign policy things that he did when he was elected. I'm not exactly sure why this is a first 100 days priority for President Biden. I don't know. Do we need to be doing this?
Martha Raddatz from ABC, she's their foreign correspondent. I was listening to one of her reports, and her take on it was that their back was up against the wall, that basically what had happened in Iraq had left them no choice. They had to do some sort of response, and so this was it. Speaking of the Biden agenda, the $15 minimum wage hike will not be in the final stimulus package after the Senate parliamentarian ruled that it can't be part of the budget reconciliation process. Instead, Senator Bernie Sanders and other Dems are floating the idea of a last-minute clause that would raise taxes on profitable companies that pay workers less than $15 an hour. Meanwhile, congressional Republicans are closing ranks against the bill ahead of its passage in the House, which will likely happen today. The stimulus is quite popular. About 7 in 10 Americans support it, including many Republicans, according to Quinnipiac. And GOP lawmakers do face some risk in opposing it, right? You don't want to go home and try to campaign and be the person who said, I don't want to send Americans checks for $1,400.
Yeah, I'm not sure that they're making that Republicans are making the right call in opposing this. Back to Syria just for a second. Only in America, right?
Politically, by the way.
Right.
From
exactly.
a political standpoint, you could definitely make an argument on face value that it's too much and it's not targeted enough, which we've talked about.
Look, people like getting money. I mean, it's like politics 101, right? Just back to Syria, Jill. Only in America can the president unilaterally bomb a country that we're not at war with, but has to like listen to some random guy who like makes the rules in the Senate about what can and can't be in his bill.
The parliamentarian's a woman, Carlo.
Oh, really? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you cleared that up. I didn't even know that was a job that existed until a couple days ago.
The New York Times did a great profile of her, and just how hardworking she is, and how basically after the January 6th insurrection, she and her staff had to go back and they worked like a crazy 15-hour day because, of course, that was when Congress approved the results of the election, certified the election results. So I recommend reading it. But yes, this is a job and quite important, and it's being held by a woman.
Okay, good. Thank you for clarifying that. what was I going to say? Even without the minimum wage, to your point earlier, Republican lawmakers, the line is pretty much this, right? The bill's too big, it's too expensive, and it's full of giveaways for liberal constituencies that are unrelated to the pandemic. And I think that there are real good faith quibbles with what is in the bill and its size. I mean, I tend to align myself with Janet Yellen and Jerome Powell, who have pretty much said, look, go big. Bigger is. It's better to go big than to go small. But I love this idea that Republicans say of like bailing out like the New York City subway, which is probably without exaggeration single-handedly responsible for more economic activity than any other thing in America. That's like some giveaway to Chuck Schumer. I mean, it is a fact that blue states were hit hardest economically, and thus need the most aid, because that's where the majority of the economic activity in this country exists.
Also, by the way, CPAC starts this weekend, which is the big annual conservative political conference. Former President Trump expected to speak in his first public appearance since leaving the White House. His son, Donald Trump Jr., he's going to be talking today. And it's very clear from the agenda, if you were looking for some sort of indication of which way the Republican Party was going to go, that they are leaning into Trump. That they're not going the other way.
You see this video that's circulating of this this gigantic it's like a golden statue of Donald Trump that they were like wheeling into the conference room at CPAC last night. No. It's like, have any of these people read the Bible, the golden calf? I don't know.
We were just talking about big cities, which is a good segue for this. The rents going back up, according to a nationwide analysis by Apartment List. Rent prices just had their biggest month-to-month jump since the summer of 2019. The rental market in cities hardest hit by the pandemic, like San Francisco, New York City, Seattle, and Boston, appears to have bottomed out. There are signs of a rebound ahead of the typically busy spring moving season.
Basically what this means, if you're looking for a new place in a big city, act fast, don't wait. That's sort of the bottom line here. We were actually, Becky and I we need a new apartment in a bad way. Even before this baby comes, like this thing is getting smaller by the day, which is just, if you live in New York City, of course, you never have enough space. But we were going to try and see if we could buy something. But I think we've decided that we're going to rent, just because there have been such good deals out there. But now I'm a little bit worried that the incentives may not stick around now that what you just said is happening. I mean, our building, for instance, in Brooklyn, they're offering 3 free months of rent. And I think that's become sort of a typical incentive, at least in New York City. So that makes sense, right? You offer all these good incentives, people are going to move in. So I think one of the good things that could happen, especially if rents don't go back up to where they were right away, is that you may be able to get some people who couldn't afford to live in these cities, especially some younger people who may be able to move in and maybe could create a whole new sort of, renaissance in some of these urban areas, because a lot of these cities have just become impossible to live in if you're not making, a couple $100,000. It's not possible.
I still get Street Easy email updates about apartment buildings and stuff that I flagged. And there was always this building right on the water in Brooklyn Heights that I had my eye on. I always wanted to live there. And so I just would always get flagged if there was ever an apartment. And apartments there are way down. I mean, it was, I would say by like $1,000 or $2,000 a month in terms of what they're charging. So I would jump on it, Carlo, for sure. And you make a great point, and a lot of people have said this about New York City especially. It's like the city's going to recover. It's just not going to look the same as it did pre-pandemic, and that's okay.
Exactly.
Cities do reinvent themselves.
Exactly. That's a great point.
Okay, switching gears, Lady Gaga, this is a wild story, is offering $500,000, a reward for the return of her 2 French bulldogs, Gustave and Koji. They were stolen in an armed robbery that left her dog walker critically injured. He was shot 4 times when he tried to fight the assailants off. One of her 3 dogs managed to escape. No arrests have been made. This guy, the dog walker's name, I think, is Ryan Fisher. I was reading about him, and he just loves dogs. And the New York Post, I think, was going through his social media profile. This is just crazy.
What happened here?
So he was shot 4 times in his chest.
Yeah.
while he was walking her dogs, and I believe Lady Gaga's in Rome
Hmm.
on a shoot or something for work.
Did you see the surveillance video? The whole thing was caught on like somebody's what do they call those, like Nest cameras? Well, I mean, I wouldn't recommend watching it because it's like sort of
I can't
traumatic.
watch it.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's apparently thefts of Frenchies that's a thing, and they're on the rise because these dogs, I guess because they're little, they're really easy to turn around and resell on the black market, and you can get like $10,000 a pop for a pure breed. But I mean, what kind of person steals somebody's dog and then shoots the dog walker? Is that really necessary? Oh
The
God.
whole thing
I
is
hope they get these guys.
this cannot be something that's going on in 2021. We have to like, nip this in the bud. I hope they find whoever did this. I hope they get these dogs back.
Yeah.
Just a horrible story.
Throw
And
the book at them.
I really hope this guy is okay. I always used to say if I ever wanted to quit my job or got fired, I was like, I should be a dog walker, at least when I lived in the city, because it was
Yeah.
it's the happiest job, right? You go, these dogs are so
Yeah.
happy to see you. You're
Uh,
outside.
How great is it when you see the guys walking down the street with like the 20 different dogs from all the different apartments, and they're all just kind of like bopping behind him or her, and they're just like, yeah, I love that.
Um, Kelsey Grammer reprising his role as the psychiatrist Frasier Crane in a Frasier reboot coming to Paramount Plus. Viacom CBS confirmed the rumors after it unveiled details of its upcoming streaming platform, of which Frasier will be a flagship series. Paramount Plus will replace CBS All Access when it launches next week. The platform also going to be the exclusive home to some big screen movies like Mission Impossible 7 and A Quiet Place 2, 45 days after they premiere.
Were you a Frasier fan? I never got into Frasier. I think I was too
I
young.
loved Frasier. I did. I
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
But like I think
Oh,
I don't know, I don't think I was watching it live. I just think I think I
yeah.
loved the reruns, maybe were on channel 11.
Okay, but we have got to have a national discussion, Jill, about the plus in these streaming platform names. Like, where is the creativity here? Everything is now blah, blah, blah plus. It's like, wait, come on. We could do better than this, folks, right? I don't know what the answer is,
Uh
but something.
I totally agree. I believe they must do some sort of market research and people
Yeah.
must be responding to that because they feel like they're getting something extra. But I'm with you. It's like, can we?
It's like,
But I was gonna. Speaking of creativity, like, can we stop with the reboots? I love Frasier.
oh, God,
I'm
yeah,
not
I
totally
know.
interested in where he is 20 years later. You know what I'm saying? Like things were
Yeah.
fine, but it is a great time
I'm,
to be, I think, an actor or an actress who starred in a
oh,
80s or
yeah.
90s sitcom and maybe their career hasn't taken off since. Chances
Just
are
ask
your
your,
show's
yeah.
getting rebooted.
Yeah, put your quote out there and somebody will pay it. Thank God, by the way, that Jerry Seinfeld has not done that, because I think a Seinfeld reboot would be so depressing. Even if it was funny, it would really upset me.
Well, Seinfeld reboot is Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
basically George. It's basically like a George spinoff. If you know,
Yes, and
right?
I
If
love
George
Curb.
Costanza was have to spin off, it's Larry David. Finally, if you have ever gotten a tattoo that you came to regret, you have gotten nothing on Leah Holland. The 25-year-old from Kentucky won a TikTok challenge for the dumbest tattoo. Hers reads, courageously and radically refuse to wear a mask. Holland said she liked the message of self affirmation and got the ill timed tattoo last March, 2 days before Kentucky recorded its first COVID case.
I mean, it's such a
What?
stupid story, but I love this story. She says that she's not an anti-masker, but I can just imagine that she's getting some serious dirty looks on the street. It's in big letters right on her arm. Refuse to wear a mask.
Just you've got to wear, if it's on her arm, just wear long sleeves
Yeah, until
until you
this is
can get
over.
that thing removed. Okay, let's do a little love hate eight.
All right, I'll start today. One thing we love, and this is shout out to our producer, our colleague Rebecca. She came up with this one: dogs and raincoats. We were speaking about dogs a minute ago. Uh, uh, Everyone loves a good dog in a raincoat, especially when they've got a better one than you have. You know what I mean? And it's especially funny when they're wearing like the little rain boots.
I do feel bad for the dogs. They're miserable in the rain, and I think that they universally hate wearing those raincoats. Um, but they are.
I saw it just coming out of my building the other day when it was snowing, one of those days when it was snowing all day. I just saw this guy take it was like a bulldog actually, took his dog out, didn't even put him on the ground, just put him into the snow to pee and then walked like right back into the house. I just thought that was so funny.
Tressel has an Ohio State sweatshirt that's his go-to, and it's actually so cute. And I think he likes it. I think it makes him feel comfortable. Okay, one thing that we hate, this actually happened to me, feeling unwell or sick during a pandemic. Is it a cold, allergies, a hangover, or this virus that's rampaging around the world? I had a cold before my vacation and your vacation, and I didn't think it was COVID because but I was like, could it be? And so, there you go. It was just not a great few days until I started to feel a little bit better.
See, it's happened a couple times to me now where that's happened and I've gone out and gotten tested and it's come back negative. I think I'm on like probably going on number 3 of having to do that. But it's usually for me, it's allergies because I get really bad seasonal allergies. But it's hard to know these days what it is, right?
I did get it. I got a rapid test because I was nervous. For me, I think it was just exhaustion, right? I mean, we're up so early and I can't really go to bed that early because I have to do a lot of stuff at night. So I think, getting sick is a part of life. It's hard when you're not 100% sure if you've got COVID and need to quarantine from your friends and family.
Right, exactly. Okay, and finally, one thing that we ate, ham, Munster, lots of Dijon, good rye bread, toasted. I've been making my own lunch for going on a year now, obviously, and this one is just a classic. Never misses, super easy. The bread's got to be good. It's got to be the good boar's head ham at the deli. Can't recommend it highly enough. I miss like getting lunch from like an actual place. That's one of the things I miss about going to work is like going to like the salad place and paying $15 for some mediocre salad. I actually miss that.
I wonder if not the salad places like Fresh and Tossed, those I think will be fine. But I do wonder about the ones where it's self-serve, like Essen, which was right by our office. I don't know the future of that, like a self-serve buffet.
Buffet, yeah, that's a good question. Yeah,
you really want to be putting your
hands in that thing. Ugh.
And by the way, Munster I think is a very underrated cheese. So I like. Oh,
completely agree.
All right, that is what you need to know for Friday, February 26th.
All right, folks, we'll see you in March.